Hey friends, welcome back another week, another, I don't know, bundle of craziness on the Dom and Gabe show as we're trying to make sense of life. Two young dads with, well, families and budgets and paychecks and bills and still trying to keep that sense of like joie de vivre, that life is
Ooh.
worth living, that stuff can be
Magnifique.
fun.
Yeah.
There you go. Stuff can still be fun, even when you work together, especially when you work together, which we do all day. We both work remote. And so we're trying to make sense of life and answer all the big questions of life from Gabe's attic. And I'm downstairs and, well, off my kitchen.
We just move up and down.
Trying to avoid moldy basements, or at least I am. So I've got a question today, which is an old one, actually kind of fun, from social media a couple of years back, where people would pick their three favorite characters from like movies. You put them in a little grid, and then you share it to see who you are. And I thought, that'd be fun to bring that back up and talk about that, because I'm going to add a fourth because I can't quit. And Gabe's never heard of this, so I'm putting him on the hot seat. He's got one right now, and he's rapidly trying to think of maybe two others.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. So let's start with talking about stuff we watched over the weekend. So that's always fun. Movies. I think that you said that you didn't really have any new movies or
just watching
games and
shows.
Stuff.
Yeah. I guess I'll tee it off because it's always gonna be a quick segment on my end. But yeah, we watching Traitors, that Peacock series. Always fun to see those, and Survivor and all those shows. But yeah, we were looking at starting a new movie, and I was wondering if you saw it. And gosh, it just escaped my mind. No, it's a series. Did you watch School Spirits from Netflix?
I'm sure I started it. I don't remember why I didn't finish it.
I think the gist is that people die in a school, and then they try and figure out like their murder. So it's kind of like it's like a comedy, I think. But it's like right at my alley. It's a murder mystery.
I watched the trailer and I decided against it for me because it seemed like more of a rom-com.
Oh, I did not. Okay.
But I may be wrong, but that was my sense. Like a CW kind of thing. And
I see. Okay.
Yeah. I thought it was a funny idea.
I like a good whodunit murder mystery. So that's what I thought it was when I saw that. I liked the Knives Out series, and anything Agatha Christie was always fun. But no, this weekend I just did Survivor, just watching people do crazy stuff for $1 million, which was fun. And I think the funniest thing, though, the Traitors. So Traitors is, we talked about this before, these reality star people, they're all sent to a castle, and then two or three people are picked at random to be traitors. You have to go through, missions and stuff, trying to scope out who these traitors are. I always thought, like, how would you, I don't know how we would play the game. I know, like, I'm an emotional person, but I think I'd be like, no, this is a game. I don't have to be, like, personally attached to it, but you are working with people who are this and that. And so, like, in the game, you watch these people and they're like, how could you? And he's like, this is the game. What do you mean, how could I? The game is called Traitors. How could I? And so that was what we were, joking with last night, that these people get, angry or affected or, hurt by somebody being a traitor. It's like, that's the game, though. I don't know. Like, if you were to play that game, how do you think, do we talk about this? How would you, like?
Probably, yeah. I'd probably be really bad. Like, really, really bad.
Bad in what way? Bad like you couldn't do it, or bad like you'd just be ruthless and just tear through the whole thing?
Honestly, probably both. Yeah. I don't have enough practice being manipulative, but I think I'd probably really get into it.
Yeah.
I think that's a funny thing about people, about how we can method act.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think it can be really helpful to, like, you create a different persona to be able to handle with problems in life. So, like, I got this piece of advice I saw, which was it was an Instagram reel where some lady was like, me personally, I'm a very emotional introvert. I'm very sensitive and I hate dealing with people. But when it comes to work, I pretend that I am, I don't know, Jane, something.
Yeah.
But Jane is a hard ass, business person who doesn't care at all about what other people think. And so
Jane.
When I am Jane, I can walk into a room and I can command that room. Now I have to collapse afterwards with a nice Cabernet. But in the moment, I'm able to, like, demand my worth, and I just don't give two Fs about anybody else and stuff. And it's just interesting how we can do that for a moment. We can become somebody else because maybe a situation needs it or something.
Yeah, but when I act like Jane, everybody laughs.
Because it's the wrong Cabernet, Gabe. That's what's like the whole thing with, Married at First Sight, or what's that other show? That other dating show, which is, I forget. I think it's a Netflix one.
Love is Blind?
Yeah, Love is Blind.
Yeah.
The amount of alcohol. Oh my gosh.
You have to stay loose. Got to stay loose.
Gosh. I mean, I can understand it, yes, with cameras in your face and stuff, but after a while, it's like, how
To a degree,
honest is anybody really being here?
Oh my gosh. Well, you see, you could tell like when the conversations bleed out and they're like, dragging, like, all right, maybe a little less, but I don't know. I've never been in that situation, and I'm glad I don't have to be.
I don't mean to, Mr. Frodo. I don't mean to.
I know lots of things.
Oh gosh, what season? Who said that? What's the person?
The girl from the 2 seasons ago.
Okay.
She was, last season, trying to prove that. It's always funny when somebody who's trying to prove how much they know things say, I know lots of things. Usually people, like, you ever hear, an Elkin professor say, I know lots of things. Like, can you picture Peter Kraft, like, saying, I know lots of things?
Yeah, the moment you say that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Is a cue. It's like, I remember saying that to my first girlfriend ever dated. I'm not boring. I'm actually really fun. And looking
I'm actually
back,
super fun.
And she tried to reassure me, yes, I know. And
it's not back, you, it's me.
It didn't work out. I was awful. So for me, what did I watch over the weekend? New season of Black Mirror dropped. So almost through that. Trying to think if there's anything else I watched. I can't really remember. I've had headaches all weekend. We were trying to move my wife's desk into another room in the house, and there's something wrong with that specific room. It might be off-gassing from the boiler, or there's additional VOCs or something.
Boy,
every time the room warms up, I can't stay in it. I get crazy headaches. And
is it an upstairs room, you said?
Yeah, it's an upstairs room. No other room does that. It is adjacent to the water heater room. I don't know what it is. So usually there's like when you have, what is it? Ozone. When you have like ozone poisoning or something, it results in like nausea and, at the very least, crazy headaches that, won't go away for a long time. So I'm kind of in that right now.
Yeah.
So I don't really remember very well what else I watched beyond seeing Black Mirror. It's like, that's it. Life's on hold. I'm watching this now because they've always got like good stuff. And then the first episode, pretty sure it was the first episode, was an absolute, what's the word, bell ringer? I don't know. I'm watching that episode and feeling like, man, this is my life right now. This is insane. There's
in what way?
So the story is about a young couple and they're trying to get pregnant. They're a little advanced in years, maybe, I don't know, early 40s for her, or late 30s for her, early 40s for him, something like that. Basically, they know their clock is ticking kind of thing, and they're very much in love and stuff like that. And then one day, so he works at a factory plant, like a worker, and she teaches grade school kids, and one day she falls over in the classroom and they diagnose her, and she's got this massive tumor that's just been working away at her brain for a long time, and there's no coming back. She's on her way out. They got to say goodbye. And then the nurse pulls the guy aside and goes, there's an experimental therapy that you should know about. I can't endorse it or recommend it, but I can put you in touch with the person. He's like, yeah, I'll take it. He's desperate. And the lady comes in a pink power suit, and she goes very, very kindly and stuff. Well, here's what we can do. We can, very neatly cut out that part of the brain, and then we will scan in and sort of 3D print that brain as a digital clone, and we'll store that on our servers, and we can live stream that back to some receptive tissue that we'll put in your wife's brain. So basically you can have her back, and we'll basically be able to live stream that part of her brain back to her so she can be herself again. And he's like, okay, you're right.
Sure. Yeah.
Does that work? And so the lady goes, yeah, I'm somebody who's been through this. You're looking at someone who has also gone through the same therapy thing. And you sleep a little bit longer, but for right now, you will be limited to your specific county because we're still rolling out coverage across the country. And he's like, oh, what's it going to cost me? And she's like, well, we're basically trying to get a ton of adoptions, so the surgery is going to be free. And then we'll put you on a subscription model of about $300 a month. And then, like I said, coverage will increase, and you can be able ultimately to travel anywhere in the world. And he's like, I can't pay it, but I'm going to find a way to make it happen. Yeah. So he goes and starts paying it. And then after about a year, all of a sudden the lady notices she's starting to sleep a bit longer, and she's starting to roll off ads while she's talking. And then she'll come right back from speaking at it. Do you ever watch
The Truman Show?
Yes, The Truman Show.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening. Yeah. But she has no idea what's going on. It's like she's being hacked. And so
Oh my
she will
gosh.
start giving all of the wrong kind of ad placements, and it starts damaging her ability to keep her job. And so they fire her and you can't come back until you
Yeah, get
stop it.
that.
And so he's like, well, what's going on? So they all run back to Riverstream is the name of the company. And they run back to Riverstream and they're like, well, you see, we've got this exciting new tier. For a fee, an extra fee, we can eliminate the ads. It's a way that we're looking to improve customer experience. I'm like, this is Prime. This is Amazon Prime and Peacock right now. I'm already paying for it, and I can't get past the stupid ads.
What do you mean ads? My wife's talking gibberish.
Yeah. And so she's like, yeah, there's extended sleep times, as well when you're on we're calling it now the common plan. We'd like to upgrade you to Riverside Plus. And it's like, it's an exciting new program. It's like ad free and it's got like extended coverage,
Man.
And it's like, what? It's like, I thought it was going to be baked in. Yes, this is how it's being baked in. It's through these additional plans. Okay, what's it going to cost us? An additional $800 a month on top of your existing. And they both gasp.
Gosh.
And then the guy goes, okay, all right, let's do it. We'll do it. I will find a way to make it work. And he starts literally putting in all the overshifts, blah, blah, blah. And it gets to a point where he just can't even keep it up anymore and cope with it. So give me a quick second here. So, and then the only way that he can find a way to pay for it is there is a stupid website. It's a bit like OnlyFans for self-harm, and people pay you to live stream you doing horrible things.
Man.
And you can get like cool money, but it's like an awful website.
Oh, wow.
And so he turns to that to start trying to make income. And he doesn't tell his wife. So she has no idea about the stuff he's putting himself through to be able to pay. Because if he stops, well, she basically dies again.
Oh.
And so at one point, they decide, well, it's our anniversary. Okay, let's go to our favorite place that we go to every year. And so they drive out to that place. And as they pass the county limit, she just, boom, collapses in the city. And he thinks she's dead and he's freaking out. He turns around. And he pulls back inside the city limits, and then she wakes up again. It's like, what happened? What happened? And then he's like, oh, okay, we have to go back to Riverside. Like, we paid for the extra coverage. Yeah. We're supposed to be able to like go anywhere. And then they get there, and then the lady's like, oh, really? That happened? I'm so sorry. Yes, it's very hard. Well, look, we've got an exciting new plan. Here's how we're going to give you access to all this extra coverage that you're looking for. And then the lady's like, look, I don't understand. I'm exhausted all the time. Like I go to sleep and I sleep long times and I don't feel like I'm rejuvenating at all. Like why? Yeah. And the lady's like, well, here's what's happening is like while you're asleep, we're putting you in sleep mode and then we're using your brain to crowdsource the grid. So you're basically paying back into the grid. This is what's allowing us to keep these fees so affordable.
Goodness.
So that you're able to service and support other people's processing power. She's like, we paid for Riverside Plus. Like,
wow,
what is this? Like,
Riverside?
Like, we don't even offer Riverside Comment anymore. Like, it's such a, and they're like, what? And so she's like, we've got this exciting new plan. It's called Riverside or Riverstream Lots. Yeah. Right. And that gives you you will get the ability to travel anywhere. It's zero ads, guarantees, plus
zero ads.
Plus you can dial up your sensory input so that you can enjoy life more.
That was an enhancement.
Yeah, you can also download learning experiences from other people on the network so that you can learn things a lot faster. And they're like, well, it sounds amazing. What's that going to cost? Well, it'll be an extra $1,000 on top of everything else you're already paying. And then they're like, they freak out.
Yeah. What a beautiful like human manifestation of like the subscription service and how painful it is.
I mean, I can't lie. See, my wife's been sick for 10 years. I'm watching this and I'm like, this feels like our life. Like we can never win. And every time we think we do, there's something else. And it's awful.
It's always just another tier away. You're just a tier away from actually getting what you need.
So here's the thing that's kind of ridiculous. While we were doing that, there's this joke that I've seen online where people are like, how the heck did we convince or buy into this whole thing of like a grocery store, right? It's like food literally grows out of the ground for free and I have to go pay somebody else
we'll
for
buy it.
We have the water where we are it's city water and it's pretty awful for drinking. So we have to get water filters to filter it. So while I'm watching this episode, we just had the new filter arrive because it timed out. So I was swapping it out and running new cycles, to get the water to be drinkable again. And I'm staring down at this thing and thinking, this feels so dystopian. There's fresh water coming out of the ground. I can't get access to it or drink it unless I run it through a Star Wars machine. And
right
this
behind you is a stream. Yeah.
just feels anyhow. That's why Black Mirror, in so many ways, like it's so
That's what
good.
I felt too. I mean, we buy filter bar too because apparently my stomach can't handle the spicy water that comes out of the ground. I think it's because I don't know. There's theories that I have no idea if these are right. They're my theories, so they're probably all incorrect. But I think that just have gotten almost conditioned to not receive the water because the rest of my family drinks the water. It's well water. It's fine, and we drink it all the time. But for some reason, I get headaches or say if I drink it. So I drink the filtered water. So I don't know, like, so I'll go back and forth. Like it's like hit or miss. But I was making my coffee with that water, and I was getting stomach aches or headaches. And then as soon as I switched to the filtered water, I was fine. So I don't know. But again, I think I was like same thing. Like, why am I have to pay for this when I could have just been, if we were 200 years ago, not even 200 years ago, 100 years ago. I don't know.
It's
maybe I just go long enough.
I don't know. It's different though, because people 100 years ago, the food diet was completely different.
That's what yeah.
But not only that, pathogen load or your bacterial environment is totally different. Like the homes that we live in today, the way that they're constructed today, very different.
So different.
It feeds bacteria in a different way. This is why you could get mold in like an ancient sort of Scottish castle.
Yeah.
And it's pretty, as far as I have learned, don't quote me on this, but I'm quoting me on this. It can be benign. You can walk into a molding Scottish basement in the Highland Castle kind of thing, and the mold isn't actually trying to kill you because it's happy mold. It's growing on the rocks. It's doing its thing. But then you go and you get homes today that the way that they're constructed is they're trying to be bacteria free. And so they load it up with antifungal, anti-pesticides, antibacterial things, which means the only bacteria that survive are the ones that didn't die off. And so they're then eating stuff that is loaded with an insane number of chemicals. I mean, I am very grateful for my house, but at the same time, the negative trade-offs are we're living now in environments that are, if you're not really careful with how you maintain it, they can be hostile.
I know.
For like just average human living. So it's very hard to compare the sort of pathogen load or the mold load that a lot of us are handling, we're trying to live with, compared to like 100 years ago where, like, well, you talked about this, how we used to leave your doors open. You didn't have central air conditioning, right?
No.
So your body adapted to the average heat of the environment. I don't know. It's a different world.
Yeah. Well, then you get houses that are like these halfway houses where they're half old, built like in the old days, but then half of it's mixed with new construction. So it's like kind of like it has the breathability to take things in, but then it's locked in. So it's like it goes one way and stops. It goes one way and stops.
Sheetrock isn't supposed to be as breathable and stuff.
We watched this YouTuber reconstruct her house in Germany, and she rebuilt it with all these materials. Like, so the house is, over 100 years old or whatever. And so she was trying to rebuild it as it was 100 years ago, so they're trying to use materials that fit, but in a modern way, because you can't get, just river stones as whatever. So she found these companies that source, it's almost like, it's like a clay compound for the walls and natural fibers for the insulation. It's like as it was 100 years ago. So the house can breathe and live, and there's no sheetrock, there's no insulation, and I thought about that. I'm like, I would love to do that, but I don't know the cost of doing something like that. It's definitely a higher cost.
No insulation.
Yeah, it's all natural materials that you pay a bit more, but you get such a house that will last a long time and can breathe and can live and can, sustain itself. It's funny. We were going to try and like look into, I was like, oh, this would be great. Like, what if we build a house and do that ourselves? A pie in the sky dream. And look, the cost of the materials is so expensive, but if you can afford it, I mean, I think that's the way to go.
It just rocks them free in the ground. Like,
I know, but the way
people turn them into fences because there's so many.
I know they can do it. I know. I've tossed around the idea. You see these videos online. It's like, guy makes, cabin in the woods from the area, materials around him. Like, I kind of want to do that, but at the same time, like, but where? Like, every bit of land you look around is owned. You can't just go do that.
Yeah. There's darn, I had a thought and I lost it.
I was gonna say, the only thing, it's like these, I think you have to kind of keep in mind, for me, myself, like looking at these YouTubers, especially who like, you know, gave it all up. And like, you find out later, like, yeah, well, they sold their business for, $250,000, then sold the house they already had, bought a piece of land. I'm like, okay, well, it's not like you're just starting from scratch. You did have
No,
something
it's a
to go off of.
massive content program for YouTube, and they make millions off of ads and
I'm
stuff.
like,
It's
because I'm like, that's all we have
yeah,
to do is just like, let's just get away from it all. I'm like, but like, no, you don't get away from it all. You have to sell something and have money to do that.
yeah, yep. Wow, darn it! I'm so annoyed that I forgot the thing I wanted to say. But so it's possible that you might be more reactive to the water because you've been more exposed to things than perhaps the rest of your family.
Possibly.
A
I'm
lot more
definitely more
directly.
sensitive. Yeah.
Yeah. And as it annoys the heck out of me because I'm supposed to be the man of the family, and yet I'm a heck of a lot more sensitive to loss of sleep or inhaling VOCs or stuff like that. And I'm like, I should be able to handle this stuff. And I just absolutely collapse. And it's like, okay, I just actually got to be humble because technically I'm carrying a heavier load or heavier cross than the
Yeah.
rest of the family.
Mm-hmm. I feel
Oh
the same way.
well. So maybe that could be a thing. It's just a matter of there's a metaphor that my wife has taught me, which is if you were to imagine like you got a bucket in you and your body fills it, like dumps into it all of the toxins that you have. And if that bucket gets full, it basically overflows and starts spilling back into you because your body can't process it out, can't
Ooh.
dump the
Oh.
bucket or get it out of you. Normally, the bucket is maybe like half full, and that's like a
Yeah.
healthy human being because it's like, dumping stuff out. If you're overwhelmed or overloaded, then the bucket is just too full and there's nowhere for the new toxins to go, and so they keep cycling in the system. So
Ay.
it just means there's additional patience that I think is needed.
Well, the one thing I've been trying to do is just be outside more because obviously the more time spent outside, I think the better. So I did this morning, went for a walk, and finally spring is coming back. So it's funny. So yeah, in New England, typical New England spring, all the daffodils are blossoming, everything's, blooming, and the sun's warming up. And then 2 days ago, we got 2 inches of snow, just blanketed all, everything's died. I'm like, well, there goes the daffodils.
Yeah, okay. On this end, that's also what happened over the weekend. We had a ton of rain, and so whenever sunlight goes away, we get a lot of rain. I feel awful.
Yep.
Because that's a damp, humid environment that blooms in. And I'm like, dang it, I should be able to like power through it. And it's like, yeah, just be humble, would you?
Well, and it makes you feel like a plant. You're like, if I don't get the sun, I feel all wilted.
Yeah, we humans are.
I'm just like this frail orchid in a corner of a room. If I don't get enough sun, I get weepy.
Get those barbells going. I'm not a damn orchid.
What's wrong with that? It's cloudy out.
So there you go. So talking about self-identity, let's talk about that challenge thing that I mentioned. So, okay, I'll go first and give you a minute to think. So there was this challenge that went around, I guess it was on Facebook, where you pick 4 movie characters or 3 movie characters and you put yourself in the bottom right corner or something. And everybody had fun with this, like, I don't know, 7 years ago. And so I picked 3, and I'm going to throw in like a 4th one. So the characters that I picked was, first, there's the noble sense of self, who technically isn't all that noble, but I actually forgot his name.
King Arthur.
Poldark. No.
Okay.
Poldark. He is okay, so this is I think it's a BBC series of a man who returns from the Napoleonic Wars, and he comes back to reclaim his father's home in the wildlands of, I think it's like Cornwall, on the oceans of Cornwall, edge of Cornwall. And I think he's like lost everything, and so he's trying to rally his cluster of villages, and they're all miners, digging and extracting ore and stuff like that.
Like the digging miners. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think it's like 3 or 4 seasons and stuff. And I at first liked him a lot, but then because he's very noble, self-sacrificing, he's hot-headed, he's got dark features.
He's a damn good-looking man.
The downsides is he's impulsive, he's a bleeding heart, and he has little to no self-control. Whenever anybody asks him for help, he will instantly run to do it, even if that means causing issues with his own family and abandoning them because he needs to be needed. And so complex kind of good guy. Absolutely pisses my wife off. But it was a great show. We loved that show and we watched every single episode. So he was the first one. I don't know if I'd still choose him if I were to rewatch that thing, but that's who I did pick at the time.
Okay.
Second one was Reepicheep from Narnia.
Okay. Yeah.
Insufferably noble and noble-minded and sort of chivalric and ridiculous and stuff like that. I like that too. And then the third person that I picked was Radagast.
Okay. Yeah.
From The Hobbit, with basically the bird farting on his face,
Yeah.
and he's like half high all the time, wishing he could live out of the forest. So I figured I'm definitely a combo of those three characters.
Okay.
The fourth person that I'm going to pick is actually my spirit animal, Daniel Jackson from Stargate, who's
okay, I haven't seen that.
He was the sort of main figure from day one throughout the entire series.
Wow.
Devilishly handsome with glasses, absolute nerd. See a trend going here? Archaeologist.
Yeah. Yep.
Dork, not so much into the violence, more into the discovery, capable of being violent if needed. So there we go. So it would be Poldark, Reepicheep, Radagast, and Daniel Jackson. And that would be like my little grid.
Wow. That's so they in each one I could see they each have a piece. It's not the full picture, but it's a piece of you. Because that's what I'm trying to think of. When you ask me, I immediately go to we talked about heroes before, or your favorite movies, I should say, with Wonka, Watson, and Wilson.
Yep.
And I was trying to think of like when those immediately came to mind, but I know whenever I'm asked this question of like, hey, who do you associate with? I go to like the idyllic self. I'm like, I'm like Henry Cavill and Superman, obviously,
Well, you
mysterious,
got frankly.
Yeah, that is. All I have is the chin. But I go to like that thought of like, brave and blah 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 blah. But in the top of the mind, discussing, I think in reality, I am more of. I'm sure there's parts of it. So the first one I thought of was Smalls from The Sandlot. So, just to recap, we briefly discussed it, but The Sandlot, this group of kids, playing baseball in the in the lots in the Sandlot, and this new kid comes to town. The whole movie's narrated by this new kid, Smalls, and it's fine. I might get some of these details wrong because it's not like my favorite movie. It's just a movie that came to mind. But yeah, he's this kid. He just wants to be a part of something, and he's like sees that the kids all play baseball. He's like, oh, I could do that, and he gets stands out there, and he's like. And luckily, one kid kind of ushers him in and like says, "Hey, you could play," which is like, I feel like my bread and butter, my storyline is like, so one kid just goes like, "Yeah, you can join part of it," and he just plays, and it's the whole thing is funny. It's like he just wants to be part of it and like be in the know and like kind of like acts like he knows what's going on, and then he says something that they're like, "Wait, you don't know who Babe Ruth is?" He's like, "No, who's that?" And like, "You don't know who Babe Ruth is? You're killing me, Smalls." Like, what? Like, the most famous baseball player of all time, and he didn't even know who that was. And it's just a story of like how he just gets a part of this group and like he's just trying to be part of something, tries to be good, tries to be noble, and like there comes a turning point when he knows he's part of the group and now he's got to prove himself even further. And the ball goes over the fence, into the junkyards, into the junkyard, and there's a dog that's everybody's terrified of. And like no one can get those balls. It's gone forever. Those are our last ball of the season. Like we're done. Great. He goes, I'll do it. And so it becomes this whole adventure of them trying to get this ball back, and he's kind of like leading the charge. So it's like, I think, it came off the cuff of an answer, but I think it's a pretty good fit that this little guy who's just trying to make sense of the world and be part of it, do the right thing, and then when he gets the chance, just tries to prove himself, and ends up being well liked. That's what I like to think, and devilishly good hands.
They tolerate me. Say more, people.
So that'd be one. I think there's got to be somebody in Harry Potter. I was trying to think of somebody, definitely not on the Gryffindor side, more on the Ravenclaw side. But yeah, that was the other guy I think of. I can only think of two. I thought of Smalls and I thought of Milo Thatch from Atlantis, the animated Disney movie.
Yeah, Daniel Jackson and the same character.
That's what I thought when you said that. That's what resonated. Like, so Milo Thatch, this nerdy dweeb just like trying to make a name and trying to like, guys, listen to me. There's a lost Atlantis.
That is one movie I wish they would like.
Do you know what I mean?
Blow up and do again.
Yeah. When it came out like in an animated form, it was amazing. Like if they did it right, it has like an Avatar vibe to it that they could really get. If they do, I'm all in. But yeah, Milo Thatch, this guy is very curious, very, passionate about his beliefs in his convictions. Doesn't really sort of persuades people, but sort of doesn't. Comes off very amicable and friendly, but also kind of headstrong in some ways. So I think there's like that. Like I think very amicable, but also could be very in my head and like, no, let's passions. We gotta do what's right and kind of forget that other people are gonna get affected. And he's kind of a goofball, kind of trips over himself, but in the end, like, in the end, gets the princess. So I'll take that one. But yeah, those two that come to mind, the top of, I'll say, yeah, if you start painting the picture of Gabe, it'd be Smalls and Milo Thatch.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. Well, as I mentioned, last week we started my wife rewatching Psych, and so those two characters are Sean and Gus.
Yeah,
and we were rewatching an old episode, and we're realizing, man, this is so funny. There's how many seasons, and we remember every single episode, and almost every single moment of every single episode.
That's cool. It's
like as you're rewatching it, there's that sense of like just how much you remember it and how clearly, and it's just so funny. And we pause for a minute and think like, why is that? Why do we not get that with almost any other show? And I think it might be because the enjoyment is so high in almost every scene because they're so ridiculous and so well written and all of that. On my personal blog, I've started a series, which I'm not committing to, but just to have fun with, where it's called It's Loud in Here, where I've taken all the different sort of sub-personalities that I have and split them into their own voices and pretend to have conversations with all of them. And one of them is my sort of child self I call him Kiki, which was a nickname I had when I was a kid. And I think that Kiki is very, very happy with Sean Spencer. And I wish I could be Sean.
Yeah, that's I can see that.
Professional immaturity that he intentionally cultivates as a grown-up. I love that. I wish I could be funny like that.
You know what's funny? That it's like my inner kid, or the little kid inside that's always. So I loved Psych. We talked about this before. Psych.
Sorry,
Monk.
Can you give me a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Robert is calling me.
Sure. Yep.
Thanks for waiting.
No problem.
He was
in distress.
Double checking to make sure that the episode was not going to go out because he wants to re-record the second half.
Okay.
And he wants me in on the Catholic Answers negotiations on Wednesday. Something like that.
Like that. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention.
What?
I said something like that. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention. No. Okay. Okay. That's good.
Yeah. All right. I'm sorry. So you were saying something, and
that's okay. I got it. I bookmarked it. No. So I also watched Psych and Monk, and it's funny you were saying like the inner kid like speaks to you on Psych, and I loved those two shows. But there's another one that stood out as a little kid that, speaking of, I watched an episode back. I'm like, how do I remember this episode? It was of Walker, Texas Ranger with Chuck Norris. Every day, not every day. When I was sick, I would watch them, like just binge watch them because they were on during the day at home from school, just watch them all day. And after school, they'd be on. And so me and my brother would sometimes watch them. And again, just like this kind of over the top, like he could do no wrong, bust through doors, like nails every, like, kick and punch. And I don't know why that stood out to me. I was like, oh gosh, to be that kind of confident, to be like Chuck Norris, stand up for my mattress. I'm like, yeah. But I watched an episode. I was like, every scene, I'm like, oh, I know exactly what's gonna happen. It's weird how like that a show I don't even think about. But when we saw like we tuned in, I'm like, because I watched so many, I'm like, just plop it on, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember this one. He goes into the casino, opens the doors, and like,
You ever watch? Cool. I think it was at Chuck Norris as well, called Sidekicks.
No, was it a show or a movie?
It was just a movie. Yeah, we were kids. Gosh, how old were we? Must have been like maybe I was 10 or 11. I can't remember now. But my parents would. So there's 8 of us kids, and so sometimes my parents would decide, life is too crazy in this one house. Let's pick up everybody who generates all the crazy, and let's go somewhere very, very far away, and let's all pretend to rest and just put the crazy over there. And I don't know how that made anything better, but it was a break. It was a vacation for like 3 days. And so that we would drive like 2-3 hours out into the bush in Australia, and we would get to this place called God's Farm. And all I remember was a row of like just rooms, like a motel that time forgot, and a massive walk-in freezer is all I can remember because I trapped my brother in it. And then a couple of meeting rooms, and they had a copy of Redemption, the board game, which we played the hell out of that game.
Redemption, wow.
Yep, the board game. And then they had a TV in a different room, and they had a couple of movies like Mortal Kombat, which only I was allowed to watch.
Wow.
Mostly because nobody knew I was doing it. And second was Sidekicks, which was Chuck Norris. And we watched that thing over and over and over and
So
over.
funny.
Because it was the whole movie is about this young boy who wishes that he was Chuck Norris's sidekick and that he could get the girl at the end and that he could be the hero. And
well,
he's constantly slipping into his dream world, and through, I think, gosh, I can't remember anymore now, through the dreaming and the imagining, he sort of builds up the cojones to actually deal with the problems in his real life.
Good old
by
sidekicks.
Imagining he was Chuck Norris's sidekick. Yeah. So you mentioned that. It's like, oh, that's not, you probably
a
know
flashback.
that. Yeah.
Flashback to Aussie Wow. It's always funny hearing, you mentioned your different parts of life. One being Australia, one being France, one being was New Zealand ever there?
Yeah, New Zealand and,
of course.
and Fiji. Stopover in Beijing.
Of course,
that was it.
of course.
And Dubai.
Beijing, what? What are we talking about? Really?
Well, stopovers. Because I flew to Brazil with my dad and then stayed in Brazil for 3 weeks, maybe.
Man.
And that was a 31-hour flight. It was nuts.
That's a long time. The only thing we've flown to Australia, and that was long. But we did New York to LA, and then LA to Fiji, and then Fiji to Australia. But
my dad took the budget one, which is longer, which makes no sense.
I know, right? Like more stops equals cheaper. That makes no sense. Yeah, and every layover's in Ohio.
Easter Island. I visited Easter Island. For 30 minutes.
What?
The wind on that tarmac was insane. I didn't see any of the
You have to get off, right? You get off on the tarmac? Yeah. That was like Fiji, too. You got off on the tarmac.
Well, yeah.
Well, that's what we did once. Not like
so insanely humid and hot. Singapore, I've been to Singapore, stayed there a couple of days, stopover between flights as well. Yeah. That's just so cool stuff. So I think you said you had a prompt, something that and I said, don't tell me, hit me live. So here we go, friends. I don't know what's coming.
I don't know how this is going to turn out, but we have to test things.
Let's fail forward together.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was saying theory and religion. We always like to talk about these things that are fun and mystical creatures. I was like, what would be cool if you just mapped out all these prolific mythical creatures? And the thing is, you can't make them all a Christian denomination. What religion would all these things be? I think before, I was saying the Loch Ness monster, abominable snowman, or a yeti, the chupacabra. And then I was thinking any sort of mythical creature, what religion would they be if they had to be and you kind of based upon either area. So I started with the Yeti, and this is the one, though he's depicted as or thought of as aggressive and territorial. My thought is, and this is where I want you to hear your thoughts. This is uneducated guesses, uneducated theory. This is just fun.
It's like your wife asking, would you love me if I was a worm?
That's exactly the train of thought I'm hitting. And the Yeti, in my mind, would be a Buddhist, and this is why.
I mean, I don't think area of the world, but
right. So there's that. That also helps. I'm trying not to do just geographic spots because that's a little whatever. But I think the Buddhist the Yeti is actually a very peaceful creature, very peaceful, very to himself, one with nature. Loves the peace and quiet of the sereneness of the winter and the stillness of the sounds of the cold. And I think, he's not a perfect Buddhist. So that when he is attacked, he's got to protect his family. He's got to protect his area. So I think he's only aggressive which is not, I don't think in the Buddhist way in any way, shape, or form. But I think he's a very devout Buddhist. However, when it comes to defending his family, he still resorts to his old ways and he fights.
I think it depends on the degree of Buddhism.
That's what I mean. Yeah, he's not he's not a monk, but he's trying.
Well, they wouldn't take him.
He refuses to shave his head.
He's like a hermit.
Yeah. That's what. So I don't know why. Again, and then I was thinking of cartoon characters. It'd be fun to just have all these different people.
Did you ever watch I think it's called Return of the Guardians. With it's got Jack Frost, the Easter Bunny in it, Santa Claus, Tooth Fairy, and they're all fighting the Sandman.
This is a movie?
Yeah. I actually named
this is a fever dream I had.
named my first brand, Dream Again Marketing,
after
the closing piece of music in that movie.
Are you serious? When did this come out?
Oh gosh, Hugh Jackman was in it. Hugh Jackman voiced kick-ass Australian Easter Bunny. Santa is a Russian kind of accent. When did it come out? Maybe 12 years ago now. Yeah, it was. I've watched it maybe once all the way through, but it takes all these different mythologies and it merges them
What in the
together.
world?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're all trying
I've
to
never.
save children from the nightmares of the Sandman who's trying to take over the world.
That's fun. No, I did not. And so the posit is that what they were all different religions, or no?
Well, it's what you're saying is like, oh, putting them all in a
Yeah,
story
yeah,
together. It's like, here's one story kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
does this. Each
Well, that's
each
cool.
of these
I
have
like that.
distinct mythologies and worlds and they come together to save children.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I thought the conversation I had with my mind was religions, but also like if these mythical creatures had to have like normal day jobs, what would they be? So the the Yeti being this Buddhist or whatever, you could dismiss that. What would his like day job be? And I was trying to think again, like I don't know why I went to accounting. My mind just like likes to
Okay.
be like focused and like quiet, like shh, everybody quiet, trying to get to my
Why is
numbers and
this
books.
sounding like Zootopia?
That's all I'm doing. I'm just describing Zootopia.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
randomly throwing religion into it. Yeah, no, that's what I was teasing around and thinking about. But the other thing, if you want to, I don't know if you want to dabble with your own, but I have another
Yeah, hit
thing
me.
that's
What's another one?
no, just I'm excited with the new Nintendo Switch 2 coming out. And did you see the Donkey? I don't know. Did you play Donkey Kong at all?
Only a tiny, tiny bit.
The new Donkey Kong is kind of like an open world Donkey Kong, so you can like yeah, you could run around and do your fun stuff. It's like Mario, but they made Donkey Kong into it now. And then the new um, Mario Kart is an open world as well. You can drive off the course and then drive around and find another course and yeah. But so yeah, that we just saw that coming out. You could pre-order it now. I don't know. Do you play any video games lately?
Right now, I'm on a
Hiatus.
hiatus. Yeah, from any and all gaming, and I will return every 3 days. Like, I really just
I
want to
will
go
return every 3 days.
anything. I'm tired of all the hyper focus on work stuff. Like, nope, stay focused. Because on the flip side, I have become hyper creative, and my output has
Yeah. Oh,
like
that's right.
increased a ton
Yeah, which is so
because
good.
I'm not gaming. I don't
Which
know
is
how
so
long I
good.
can keep it up, and if it's a good idea. At some point, probably when I get out of my 100-day window,
Mm-hmm.
I will rethink my life
Yeah.
and just redecide because you can't. I know it's also not possible to sustain like high intensity output, but
Yeah.
the value of for me of the high intensity output is I can like try to like really quickly redefine what do I want to be doing and then map that out so that
Mm-hmm.
when I relax, the plan is in place and stuff.
I agree.
So I haven't played. Yeah, I'm not playing anything right
That's
now.
okay. That's what I did 2 days ago. It was a snowy day. We weren't gonna go anywhere, and you know, it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. So I just grabbed my phone,
Nice.
got the stand, I started recording again. You know, I made 4 episodes on my own little channel, just like the adventures of being average, making fun stupid videos. And I had this idea. It'd be so funny to sneak peek into it, make a video, episode 5 called Consistency. And it's it's like 8 months since the last time I did anything. It's like all about like stay in the groove and sticking with it. So I'm having
So
fun with
did you
that.
make it?
I'm finishing up. Yeah, so I recorded a bunch of
Wow,
stuff.
that's fun.
Yeah, just ran around the house. My kid's like, "What's Dad doing? Why is he on a camera?"
This also makes me think of that trick. I don't know if it was ever done, but it's repeated enough to where it sounds like somebody did it at some point. It's where you buy 3 pigs and you paint numbers on them, 1,
Yes.
2, and 4, and you let them all go on the campus. So it's like you come out with episode 7, like consistency, and everyone's like, "Wait, where? Hold on, what did I miss?" There's like 2 episodes not.
Or yeah, just pick it up as if I've been it's episode 27 of where it should be. Episode 27. We've been doing so good, Yeah, so I think I'm having fun with that, and made another video of just playing these wiki games. I like playing Wikipedia speedruns.
Those have been nuts. So describe
fun.
that. What is that?
It's so it's so the game is in using Wikipedia. You start from one random article and you have to get to another article within Wikipedia without control Fing. You have to just go clicking the links within Wikipedia articles to get from I did peanut butter to Eeyore, and it's just I find it very fun. So it's one of those things that
How
I'll
long
put
have
out.
you been doing it before you started recording? Would you just do it for fun?
Yeah, like you sometimes randomly just like stop and play solitaire on your computer. I'd just do a speed run.
What? I can't relate. I can't slow down. Like I can't do puzzles. It's
No,
just too slow.
when I used like in school, if we were like in a computer lab or like my an old job where it was just like
Yeah.
mind numbing, I'm like, what, I'm just gonna I did solitaire a lot. But other than that, I did Wikipedia speed runs or just Wikipedia, just hopping on Wikipedia. I remember this one job, gosh, this is a confession, but it's been 10 years, so I think I can confess this. It was like a data entry job, and I was doing like just mind numbing. There's no window. I was in a room with no windows. It was just me. I was all alone, and I'm just doing spreadsheets, just getting numbers from paper, putting it into a spreadsheet. I was so bored. And no, sorry. This is when I was doing IT work. So IT work, it was the same job. It was right after I was doing IT stuff, and I was just looking at tickets. So somebody's computer broke, whatever. But if there's no tickets, there's nothing to do. So I was just in there, and I was on Wikipedia for I think like 4 hours straight, just like going through different articles. So I've always loved playing and just jumping around, like what's what. So Wikipedia speedruns, you do that and try and do it as fast as possible. And so I'm making these videos because they're short, easy to I'll put zero editing. You start the thing, you edit. Last time I edited, I put in the music, but they're fun. And if no one enjoys them, I say at the end of the video, if you don't like it, don't tell anybody about it. But they're fun for me, and it's a way to just like make something. So you have fun, you do something, you complete it, you ship it out. There's something to it.
I think that especially for creatives like you and I, the mere act of shipping stuff, creating and then sharing, even if like nobody sort of leans back and sort of praises, there's a specific confidence or just happiness or good vibes that you get just from putting stuff out. I saw a piece of advice last week when it comes to ADD people. Basically on Instagram, I follow like a ton of ADD professionals and stuff like that, just half the time because it's just hilarious. Just how we think and operate and whatever. But try to survive the world. And this one lady was saying, there's a piece of advice out there for muggles, effectively, which is to eat the frog, which is do the hard thing first and then enjoy the rest of your day by doing the easier things.
So good.
Well, what her point was, that doesn't work for neurospicy people like me, which is that, the idea of trying to shove that frog down for an ADD kind of person, or maybe even a creative person, I don't know, can feel so overwhelming.
I see. Yeah, it is.
So I'll just then paraphrase, because I'm paraphrasing anyway. I like this phrase of you can't steer a parked car. And so start by doing the smaller, validating, creative things to get you going, to get that creativity moving, to be able to build up the steam so that
makes more
you're
sense.
in motion, your neurons are firing, things are going, you start to feel that confidence. Okay, I can do this. And then you go after the frog, or you go after whatever the big problem is. And I thought that, I was looking at myself this past 2 weeks, and we had some changes at work and new responsibilities put around, and I'm looking at my day, the day job, right? And I'm looking at it thinking, I don't know how to win. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be able to meet the goals now that we've lost specific factors that were helping us to meet those goals and stuff.
For sure.
And that's been a massive frog, and I can't swallow that sucker. So
I see.
So my brain has just gone left. It's like, I just need to do a ton of stupid, creative, funny stuff that makes me feel good about myself. Get that going. And it's like revving an engine. And then all of a sudden doors start opening and I start rethinking about things like, oh, I can now lean back into my, either I feel a little better about the day job because I was overthinking it. And by like taking some of that steam and just depressurizing that out into other things that are meaningful to me, I stopped trying to make the day job, basically be the salvation of my joy in my life. Which it's not supposed to. And I can actually try to be more objective about how do I serve and solve this problem, stuff like that. So anyhow, what do you think about that? Trying to choke down a frog or skirt around it?
The first thing you said when you said that, it clicked with me in a way, and it made sense after. I thought because I'll go into a day sometimes I'll sit down, look at my workload. I'm like, oh, okay, I just need to do something to enjoy myself first. So I'll almost give myself a treat before doing the small thing, which is you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna listen to some music, which is nice,
and
but
your internal voice is like, I'm an adult. I'm failing at life by eating the candy first.
Like always, So at first I thought you meant that makes sense. Do something before you reward yourself, which I like. But I like the refined point afterwards of saying do the small incremental thing that gets that car started before you start trying to muscle it. I almost think of it also steering a car without power steering fluid. Do you ever try and do that? It's you're muscling it and it's so hard. But when you add that steering fluid, it kind of opens things up and you can move around.
See, her point is that it's not always bad. Neurotypical people will often thoroughly enjoy doing that, tackling the biggest problem first, and then getting a massive sort of reward feeling afterwards, or
It's
leading themselves with the carrot, knowing that when this thing gets done, first thing of the day, I'm going to feel so proud of myself. I'm going to reward myself with doing this thing, whatever it is. Her contention is that it doesn't work that way. We don't now you can force yourself, but then you have to ask at what cost to basically yourself and everything else, as opposed to what happens if you coax yourself and you work with who you are. And I'm a huge proponent to understanding how to work with yourself. I was taking a walk the other day, and my mind kept coming back to this one. I'm like thinking through all the problems in my life, whatever. Because I was just listening to music. I decided I'm not going to podcast while I'm walking. I'm just going to listen to music and like, wow, the world's actually beautiful when I listen to music. I noticed stuff, as opposed to like, put on a Alex Hormozy podcast for 15 minutes. And I noticed that after that 15-minute sort of listening to him, I put my head up and realized I completely tuned out the entire world for this last 15 minutes, as opposed to when I just put music in and I looked around and it was like just beautiful. Anyway, I'm going somewhere with this. I was thinking about the problems in my life that I'm trying to overcome. And then the line keeps coming back, which is not the stones or the problems are, how does that Buddhist koan go, the Zen koan? The obstructions are not the obstructions to your path. They are the path. So stop thinking of your problems in your life as stumbling blocks. Think of them as the stepping stones. What happens to your life? How do you make different decisions when you recognize they are the way, they're not the problem? And so I finally remembered what I was trying to say, and I forgot why I wanted to say it. Probably because, it's the idea of working with yourself, as opposed to what a lot of us do, which is, I don't know, you're a failure, you don't have the energy, you suck as a human being, you should be able to operate according to these ways and whatever. And to realize I actually don't, and it's okay. Maybe it's even good for me not to. I'm going to work with the energy and the discipline that I can create. Now, again, I say that with the massive caveat that if you have no discipline at all in your life, like at all, this is a bit of a different conversation. Like, you may just be like really lazy. But if you're like a seriously hardworking and intentionally good person, like very attentive and stuff, that's a different conversation versus you can't get off the couch. That's not working with your energy, bro. That's like, get your life together, bro.
Shirking off responsibility. No, I think that it's such a game that I like that a lot. Like that, the things in life are not obstacles, but actually stepping stones. I love that. And I think that we could do ourselves a world of good if we transformed the mental conversation space we have in our minds, our self conversation, how different it is. Because it's funny when you realize that, like, wow, I've just been putting myself down. Like, is that how it's going to get in? Come on, Gabe, knock it off. Just get into work. Just get like, does that work? Like it's funny how you think of to a parent to a child, like how good does that work in motivation? Like if your kid's at the plate, you're like, come on, swing the bat, pay attention. Like, is that gonna be like, oh, sweet, yeah, I can do that? Or would it occur, like, we know these things, we know how, like, and yet for ourselves, it kind of like that rule gets thrown out the window. It's like, no, I don't need like, encouragement right now. I need to get back into shape. And maybe I'm, speaking more of self, like, it's funny how I had this conversation with, a counselor. He was like, you mentioned, like, he's like, would you ever talk to anybody else like this? I said, no, never. Like, would you ever, like, if your best friend was having these same issues and saying these things, would you ever talk to him like that? Like, no, like, I'd be horrified. And yet daily you say those things to yourself about, how you're not good, or you this or that. Like, it's just when you kind of like open that up and see that, it is mind boggling for some people. I mean, some people might not have this issue, but for those of us that do, it's a reality check.
I think that we can sometimes. Well, we're at the end of our hour, and I don't want to side quest on a whole new tangent.
Open a whole chapter.
Yeah, there you go. Well, maybe this is a good place to then wrap with that idea of there is a balance, and this is what grown-ups do: is we truckle in nuance. In that being hard on yourself is something you have to be careful about. It can be. I mean, it's like there's a. Oh gosh, how do I want to say this? You do need that balance, right? It's like with raising like little kids. If you go all honey and ice cream all the time, you raise a complete narcissist. Unless you have a very special child, and there are some out there who do not need the punishment side of things.
True, yeah.
But then you've got the other kinds of kids who are goth rebels from day one.
Yeah, they just need a little love.
Or I should say metal rebels.
Yeah.
from day one, which is kind of what I was served up, and I'm
Yeah.
grateful.
Yep.
And it's in those moments where I have to remember, okay, we've got, I don't know, a million years of evolutionary programming here that I'm not going to get over in like 10 years or just one day. And I've got this mental, it's in my head rent free of these annoying little gorillas who will go up and poke the ass cheeks of a massive gorilla sitting on a log. And after about 2 or 3 times, he reaches around and he backhands that little guy and he
Yeah.
goes flying across the clearing. And I just think, yeah, with kids, especially with kids, this translates a little bit, maybe sometimes into your inner kid. They're filthy little narcissists and they're absolutely adorable little angels
They are.
at the same time.
Uh-huh.
And you have to know how to deal with both. And sometimes you have to be the gorilla and sometimes you have to be the grandfather. And while it's true, honey does attract more flies than vinegar,
Uh-huh.
sometimes you do need that very strong, firm hand that goes, this is my house.
Yeah. A little
And
bit of course
I
corrector.
don't accept behavior in this. This lovely little reel some Japanese girl was saying, no, Indian girl was saying, all people are welcome, but not all behavior is welcome.
That's good. Yeah.
That's a
That's
beautiful
perfect.
way to put it.
That's
She's
perfect.
quoting back to her mom, like, you
Yeah.
are welcome, but not,
Uh-huh.
your
Not your
behavior
behavior.
is not
Yes.
welcome because
Yep.
you can choose to, modulate.
Mhm.
So yeah, like my little one acts like, things go bad and it's like she's on a firing squad. And she channels all of the energy in my inner child. When stuff goes bad, I shut
Yeah.
down and I go
Yep.
like Iron Man.
Yep.
Nothing gets in. I'm just going to wait it out.
It's so funny.
That's a trauma response.
Yep.
Versus, what happens if you try leading with encouragement, or what is it? Encourage for the behavior you do want
Mm-hmm.
instead of punishing for the behavior you don't.
Yeah. Yep.
And thinking about, well, what happens if we talk to ourselves that way? What happens if we treat ourselves that way?
Goodness, yeah.
I think it can be
Game
a
changing,
better thing.
yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, there's a bunch of fun. All right. Any closing thoughts? Take us out.
Yeah, just tune into our next parenting episode where we talk about
how to win at life, suckers.
How to win. How to stop being a loser dad and win. No, I think this is to end on this note of just be a bit kinder to yourself, accept the things that come our way. We could have just a much better day and a week and a path forward.